Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Mustard Hub Voices Behind the Build. In these fireside chats, I sit down with the people building, backing, and running better workplaces. I'm your host, Curtis Forbes. My guest today is Sheila Williams. Sheila is a seasoned HR leader with over 30 years of experience who transitioned from her role as Vice President of Human Resources to pursue her passion for mentoring and making an impact beyond corporate America. Her career spans diverse industries and organizations of various sizes. Her time in the C-suite adds a distinctive perspective to guide clients in developing HR and compensation strategies that drive competitive advantage, innovation, and sustainable growth. Known for her candid communication style and dedication to mentorship, Sheila fosters a strong client relationships and takes a personalized, hands-on approach to compensation design. She believes there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to compensation. It's just too important to get wrong. It must reflect the organization's unique culture and priorities to achieve long-term success. I'm happy to have you on Behind the Build, Sheila. Welcome.
Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. That was a mouthful. And I love your candid communication style, and I'm excited to hear a whole lot about that. So you're an absolute expert in compensation. How did you land on that area of expertise? What did that journey look like?
Whew. Wow, you're going to ask me to go to the Wayback Machine, huh?
way back.
The way back machine. Well, I will tell you, I think kind of going back to my days of college, right? I really liked the numbers aspect of things and really thought accounting might be the spot for me. But I took my first compensation and benefit class, and I think the connection between numbers and the ability to work with people and work with humans and kind of figure out how that all interacts really kind of excited me. And then I think through various opportunities that I've had with a number of different companies, compensation and benefits was just always where I kind of gravitated towards. And it made sense to me because it was the great opportunity to be able to let people know about their compensation, their growth trajectory. Hey, if you come in, work hard, here's what the possibilities might look like, and here's how your compensation could grow from that. Been a part of a number of mergers and acquisitions as well, which again, you've got to get into the nitty gritty of, hey, I'm merging two companies' philosophies or comp structures together. And you've got to really dissect it and decide what's going to move the needle forward. So yeah, I get jazzed up about that stuff. I kind of consider myself a nerd when it comes to those numbers, but that's what I like.
That's you thought accounting might be the place, but you wanted that numbers plus that people side of things. And I guess accountants aren't always known as being people.
But some of them are, but I would agree.
I think that you found the right place. So now you are senior compensation consultant at VisionLink. So maybe you can tell us what is VisionLink? Tell me, what does VisionLink do?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, when I decided to take the next journey into leaving corporate America, right, I started my own HR consulting company, and I realized that I really enjoy mentoring new HR talent. I really enjoyed having conversations with leaders and helping them be able to structure a job or structure a career path to really help their employees kind of take full advantage of their engagement levels, getting them a succession plan, getting them prepped for what's next, right, to help grow the business. So when I was doing that, I came and was trying to help a client I had determine how to build an incentive plan. Have been a part of incentive plans for a really long time, but just doing some research and came upon VisionLink. VisionLink is a compensation design firm that really does all things soup to nuts when it comes to compensation, from base pay, short-term incentive opportunities, all the way into long-term or phantom equity options. Okay. So I became, I had a number of conversations with the president and CEO of VisionLink, and he said, "Sheila, you bring a pretty unique skill set to our client base, because a lot of our clients are privately held organizations that are looking to grow. And in order to do that, they come upon a number of what we like to call compensation chaos decisions, right? I don't have a structure. I don't have a bonus plan. How do I incent the right behaviors? All of those things. So that's a core interest of mine. But then I also bring the HR strategy, given my background of being an HR leader. So I'm able to help our small business owners kind of think outside and expand their level of skill set and start to ask some of those hard questions. So I worked on a couple of projects, and later Tom said, "Hey, how about you become a VisionLink employee?" So as the story goes, that's history. And about 5 years now, I've been partnering or been working with VisionLink and partnering with our clients to kind of help bring them along when it comes to their compensation needs as well as their HR needs, and really being able to help. Again, coming back to one of the things I enjoy doing, mentoring the next level of talent and tackling some of those, those compensation headaches, if you will.
I love that you described it as a design firm. I don't think that I have ever really heard that in this space, and it almost takes on a totally different image in my mind. A couple of questions out of that. First one, did you get to design your own incentive plan?
Ooh, one would say yes, but
I couldn't
yeah,
help
yeah,
but
of
ask
course,
that question.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, I love how you describe it as a design firm, and I think that it almost takes on this more of a holistic image, because there's so many factors. There's so many factors at play, I guess, right? And we're talking about an employee's experience that has, you mentioned there's short-term things, and there's long-term things, and there's everyday things, and there's once a month things, and oftentimes I think that we can get lost in, um, a couple of the major items and forget what the whole picture looks like.
yeah. And thank you for pointing that out, because I would definitely agree. I mean, a lot of times our clients are like, you know what, I'm losing people for $2 an hour, but I'm paying 100% of the cost of their healthcare coverage. And the conversation that I have with them is like, well, gosh, that's a lot more than $2 an hour, right? And I'm like, are you telling your employees that question? Are you being transparent? And the leaders are like, well, I mention it. And I'm like, well, you need to find a way to really highlight that, because again, I think a lot of times people think just about what's in their paycheck, right? And or their
That's all they
benefit
see.
package. That's all they see, right? But there are so many other things that go into it, right? So I kind of try to pull that information out as I'm talking to business owners or leaders. I'm like, what else? Promotional opportunities, career development, training. A lot of our clients nowadays have the ability to work remote, right? I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
care they don't care where you are, as long as you're getting the work done. I'm like,
Right.
that's a benefit. They're not having to, put gas in their car to drive an hour commute, and it turns into 2 hours a day. Those are all
Yeah.
things that are those intangibles, your company culture, all of those things. So really trying to find a way for them to kind of highlight that and be a significant piece of their compensation philosophy, and being willing to share that information,
Yeah.
not only with your existing employees, but also your prospective employees, because it's just as important to have alignment with those people that are coming in.
I would imagine that a communication strategy probably winds up being a big part of it.
Mhm. 100%. And I will tell you that a lot of times when I say, we need to find a way for you to be transparent with this, business owners are like, does that mean, does that mean that I have to have a listing of everybody's pay, and I need to say, this is how much John makes and Sheila makes and Sally makes? No, the answer is no, but you have to give them some indication of what compensation means to the organization and what's in it for them. Hey, I'm going to come here. I'm going to give you my all each day, every day. But what am I going to get in return for that? And if the employees don't know what that looks like, or they don't know what their career path is, they're going to look up and they're going to look out and they're going to find it. And if it's not at your organization, they're going to find it somewhere. So I like to say, let's find a method that works for you, that is as transparent as you think you want to be. And let's stretch that. Let's try to continue to grow and continue to provide that information to your employees.
Yeah. I would imagine that, I mean, especially with younger generation, I think it's super apparent, but on some level, um, we don't necessarily want our relationship with the employer to be purely transactional. And I think that, like you had just made the comment, right? We go in, I'm going to give you my all. I'm going to come here every day. I'm going to work for this organization, realizing somebody else's big dream and helping them get there. Right. So it's more than just my paycheck. But if I don't see that it's more than just my paycheck, then all of a sudden that relationship simply becomes very transactional. And we oftentimes spend more time at work or with work than we do with our own families. And I don't think that we necessarily want to do that with a purely transactional relationship.
100% agree.
I'm curious to hear about the kinds of organizations that VisionLink works with. I mean, when do organizations come to VisionLink? What are the problems and challenges these folks are obsessed, or that you're obsessed with solving for them? I mean, you went into a sort of a brief, cursory description. Give me some more detail.
Yeah, for sure. So, I would like to say we're industry agnostic, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're in construction or high tech or nonprofit or an entrepreneurial organization that has 5 employees, or you're a manufacturing client that has over 1,000 employees. We're able to help and run the gamut of all of that. The other thing I think that we're able to add value to is, because we are diverse and because we are working with a number of different clients and industries and geographies, we have some pretty innovative ideas that we've seen work or not work elsewhere. And I always tell clients, I'm like, you may think this is what you need, but as we start having a conversation, I may interject, oh, have you thought about this? Or have you done that? Or what does your turnover look like? Or have you done an employee engagement survey, or any of those sorts of things? Yeah. And it really starts to get their wheels turning. But coming back to your question, right? What do clients kind of come to us with? I mean, we hear all kinds. And I think one of the things we've termed internally is we hear a lot of clients come to us with what we call compensation chaos, right? They're like, I've got this incentive bonus plan, and I feel like it's just not helping me move the needle. It's not helping me grow the company, or my turnover is too high, or my employees are asking for raises every other day. They're coming in with Google searches or ChatGPT searches to say, I need to be making, right? Yeah. Or those sorts of things. And usually they're coming in with a need, a specific kind of concern. And then as we start to peel the onion back, we're starting to find there's other issues or other things that they should be thinking about. So we're really that person who kind of looks over your shoulder and kind of says, hey, let's think holistically about this, and how can we help you build a cohesive compensation structure that, one, you feel proud of, right? Who doesn't want to say that they pay their employees a competitive wage and a benefit package and have their stuff together? So we kind of help them create that, so they have that comfort level that they are doing right by the employees who, like you said, are making it happen day in and day out.
So I love that you went there. But I actually have I'll sort of dovetail off of this with some curiosity about the opposite happening. Do clients ever come in with compensation issues that they've not identified as compensation? In other words, they ever come, basically, is compensation the problem when they think it's actually something else?
Yes. Or how do I put that mildly? Yeah. Or, what, they'll come in, they're like, I need a redesign of my short-term incentive plan. Right. Okay. And that's their path. That's their trajectory. So then we start asking questions. We're like, well, where are you? What is your pay mix? What is base pay versus variable pay? And have you benchmarked it? And they're like, well, no. And then we start talking about, and we look at their data, and let's say they have 40 customer service representatives, and they're paid between minimum and the maximum, there's maybe a $40,000 spread. And I'm like, well, are they all doing customer service reps, or do you have a career path in place, right? Do they know that if they start at an entry level, that they have an opportunity to progress and to grow in the company, and that sort of thing? So, it's kind of peeling back that onion to really find out what the root cause is, and ask those questions. And sometimes, what they think they need and what we're actually recommending may be two different things, or maybe they do need that, and there's all these other ancillary things that will also help them kind of create that comprehensive competitive package.
When it comes to the workforce overall, not just not just individuals who might work for your customers, companies, do you think that people are generally satisfied with their compensation? Like, are people getting what they really want from their employers as a whole?
Well, I think I'd be remiss in saying I don't know as if I've ever had a conversation with somebody that says they think they get paid fairly for their role, right? Everybody wants more, right? I mean, that's just human nature. But I think I think providing, I have a lot of clients who come to me. They're like, you know what? I want to pay competitive wages, and I'm like, okay, let's benchmark your jobs, because who doesn't want to stand up there and say confidently that my pay rates are competitive, right? Everybody wants to be able to say that. And a lot of times what clients are saying and what's actually happening are two different things, right? So I like to try to make sure that they feel comfortable when they say that we've got a path forward to kind of get them in that position. So, again, maybe this is just my desire for the numbers, or because I'm a numbers person, right? I like to have data and I like to have facts so that we can speak from a place of knowledge rather than just where we want to be, right?
Curious from your mind, like, what do you feel that this workforce wants when it comes to compensation and what we refer to as total rewards? And maybe you're the right person to explain to everybody, how do you define total rewards?
That's a great question, because I often start that conversation with my clients in that very same way. I'm like, if you were describing your total rewards package, what would you include, right? And a lot of times clients will tell me, well, I have a base pay, I give them benefits, I try to give them a profit sharing or a bonus opportunity, and yeah, that's my package. And I challenge them to think broader in that, because, like I said at the very beginning, right, there are things such as career progressions. I think,
Yeah.
kind of coming back to your earlier question about what the next generation of employees are looking for, that's great. This is the job I'm doing today, but they want to know what's next.
Yeah.
What's next? What does my future look like? What are my personal goals and aspirations of being a leader someday? Are they going to be are they going to come to fruition at this organization? And if I don't see that path forward, or the culture or the benefit package is not what I'm looking for, I'm going to go looking for it. So I think it's important that business leaders also think about, I think culture, trust, and transparency. I mean, I think that's another important factor that this next generation is looking for. Don't just tell me this is what you're doing. They want to see that that's actually
Yeah.
happening in the day to day. And, the other thing, again, having been in corporate America for a number of years, and sat around boardroom tables saying, this is what we need to say. And then actions are not the same as what we say, right? Actions and words need to be connected. People see through that. So I think the other thing is, I had one of my employees say at one time, bad news doesn't get better with time. So let's be transparent. Let's just say it like it is. And there's a lot of truth to that, because I think if you're not open with your employees and kind of share whatever it is, good, bad, or ugly, right?
Yeah.
You're telling the truth. That is far less, in my opinion, damning than not saying anything and being
Yeah.
silent, because the mind tracks that the employees play are going to be far worse than you just telling it like it is. So again, I get that that's easier said than done sometimes. But it's those leaders in the organization that have to be strong in those roles and be that open, honest, and transparent with whatever it happens to be. And I think that speaks volumes.
Do you, I mean, do you think that employers, do you think they know? Do you think they're really tapped into what their employees really want and need when it comes to all this compensation stuff? I mean, regardless of whether or not they actually offer it, do you think they do generally have a good idea? You mentioned the business or the business leader that you might ask to them, what does total rewards mean? And there's some who I think maybe there's a gap between what they think should be included and what I think in a broader context it could include. But as a whole, right? You talk to a lot of organizations and a lot of business leaders. Where do you think that the majority fall on that spectrum?
Yeah, I think I think more times than not, the struggle is, how do I balance? I mean, let's be honest, compensation is one of the, and however you want to frame that, one of the biggest expenses of an organization,
Oh, I mean,
right?
people is generally the biggest cost center.
Right, exactly. And I often tell clients, I'm like, you probably have very aggressive, how do I grow margin, and how do I reduce expenses? People have things in place to track and manage all of that. I'm not sure people always think about their people expenses in that same way, or people, I shouldn't say expenses, investment, right? Investing in your people,
Good
right?
catch.
And you're right. I because I talk to so many people who are like, oh my gosh, but people are an expense, and I'm like, well, you need to flip the narrative.
Yeah,
It should be
it's true.
an investment, right? So again, I still slip myself, but they're trying to figure out how to get their best return on investment, right? Let's be honest, right? Like you do with any other asset that you have
Yeah.
from a business perspective. So what does that look like, and how can they maximize that? So I think the business owners and the leaders that are really thinking about how can I maximize that, that's where we can help you add the most value from a consulting perspective, because we help you really think about all the tangible and intangible things that you have that are going to help you move the needle to attract employees, to retain employees, to engage employees, and get them to that next step. And I think one of I would call it the hottest topics right now with a lot of my clients is helping them build that career trajectory or that career path. Because, while we say that doesn't cost anything, I think it has a tremendous amount of value, because employees are now saying they care about me. They want me to grow and succeed in this company, and they've created a path. They're going to give me that opportunity. So they're investing in me, and that sends, in my opinion, kind of the right message.
Yeah.
That it may not be today mean
Yeah.
anymore in my paycheck, but they're thinking about it and they have a path forward.
And I'm really interested in where this was going, because we talked a little about communicating, right, with your
Mhm.
employees, and maybe applicants or prospects that work with your organization. Um, it sounds like there's a lot of leaders out there who maybe don't understand how to be transparent and in what ways they can be, kind of like you described. So, if you were to offer some suggestions, like what does a good step look like to take, right, in order to be more transparent, in order to communicate these things? What can some of the business leaders do, um, when they're talking about some of these things with their employees, what they can expect around their compensation and benefits?
Yep. So, one of the things that we are really big at VisionLink on is preparing a compensation philosophy statement. And it's usually
Okay.
a one-page document that says, hey, these are all of the things we're going to take into account and what we consider compensation to be. And I encourage, to go as nitty as, hey, we're going to benchmark our jobs every other year or every year to make sure that we're competitive. That sends a message to somebody that says, hey, my leadership team wants to make sure that they're paying competitive wages, and they're gonna check that every other year.
Mhm.
I encourage clients to put a stake in the ground and say, hey, you will be eligible for a salary increase or a merit plan or a cost of living increase or whatever it is you want to call it every June, let's say, right? So that a new hire coming in knows that every June they have an opportunity to get a merit increase. Now, whether or not they do could be based on a number of factors, business conditions, their individual performance, but they at least have an awareness of when that is. I can't tell you how many times business leaders have called and I'm like, okay, so why are we talking today? And he's like, well, I just had the third person in the last month come knock on my door saying, when am I going to get a merit increase or a salary increase? And I'm like, well, did you tell them when they were going to get a merit increase? Well, no. I'm like, well, it's fair that they're asking, because if they've been with you for a year, I mean, most
Yeah.
companies do everything on an annual basis. If they've been with you for a year and you haven't given them either a conversation about where they're at, they're going to be sitting there saying, gosh, am I not doing my job? Is something wrong? I haven't gotten
Yeah.
something. So you're,
I,
you're
I,
going to mention something.
yeah, I'm curious though, in your mind, a lot of times when people hear, you use words like eligible for, opportunity to,
Hmm.
and which is a great way to frame it. But
Hmm.
also sometimes what's heard is I get a raise every year.
Right.
And when that doesn't happen, some trust or can erode, or you might, there might be some disgruntled employees. And I'm
For sure.
curious, you talk about outlining some of these things. What does that look like, right? Do you find that you'll see a lot of business leaders, HR leaders, explain to the employees or prospects that they are eligible for, merit-based increases or opportunities for that, without actually going into detail of what that is, and then seeing ramifications afterwards that they should have done that?
Yeah. So I guess I'll temper my response by saying, yes, you need to let them know, right, what they're eligible for or what they have the opportunity to receive. But then that also needs to be continual communication. So it's not
Yeah.
a one and done, right? So when you're presenting an offer, you need to tell somebody, hey, this is what the package looks like. So then in June, right, when they're eligible for that increase, you need to have that conversation that says, hey, this year, due to business conditions, we're not going to be giving an increase. We're going to push that out to, another 6 months to see if business conditions change. Or, hey, you want to know what? We've established a 3% promotional or a 3% merit budget that we're going to give to managers and leaders and ask them to distribute it as they see fit based on individual performance. So you're following up, not only are you eligible, but also the positive or the negative of either giving one or not giving one with that information. So it's yeah, coming back to my point, it's not a one and done. You need to continually find ways to be transparent and bring those conversations up.
Yeah, so I love that, and I'm curious, beyond the compensation, though, beyond the money and the benefits and perks, what's important to keeping employees around? What are the other things in the total rewards package that we haven't talked about?
Yeah. So, kind of coming back to one of the things that I mentioned, one of the big projects that we're working with a lot of clients right now are the career pathing. Because again, I think that shows that, an employee who joins the company, there is a future. I think that open, honest, and transparent communication, be it business conditions, be it company performance, whatever that happens to be, continuing to keep those lines open Some of our clients are doing like skip level meetings. So, hey, it's the business owner with the direct frontline employee,
Mm.
and opening up those lines of communication to know, hey, you don't have to go through your manager. I would prefer that. But those skip level meetings, help you get a chance to, as a business owner, really understand, what the employees are doing, what they're feeling, what they're seeing, what the questions that they have, and you're able to answer those. So those type of engaging town hall meetings where, again, you can be not just the face from the office, but you're actually one of them, and having those frank dialogues are definitely important as well towards building that strong culture.
I think that, in those cases, I would totally agree with that. My only caveat would be in a lot of those cases, the leader has to be willing to, there has to be, when you're walking into that, a willingness to act.
Yeah,
You're going
very.
to get a lot of feedback. You're going to get a lot of, suggestions, recommendations, requests, feedback, and listening for the sake of listening. Can also erode some trust if there's not really that willingness to do something about, right, if there are problems or if there are issues. The voices want to feel heard and seen. So the business leader walking into a town hall, for example, just to be seen is, right, simply performative, right, unless there's actual that actual willingness to do something with the information that you're getting.
Yep, yep. And I 100% agree with what you're saying. And realistically, you can get a pretty good sense from a leader and having that conversation if that's something they're interested in. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's easy, and
Uh,
not everybody wants to embrace that kind of change. But then I have to say, where do you want to be as an organization, right? If you
yeah.
want to push the boundaries and continue to grow, you have to give yourself that I can do this mentality, and make it happen. Also, kind of coming back, right? You made the comment about, just asking for the sake of asking, or just being present for the sake of being present. I would 100% agree. You have to do something with the feedback that you're given, because if somebody gives you feedback, or you ask for their thoughts and you're going to choose to do nothing with that, that's probably far more damning than never asking the question to begin
True,
with.
and it's yet another way to just silence, those voices in your organization that you really don't want to be silenced.
Correct.
Um, and it kind of brings me to another question. Talking about leadership traits, right? As we think about this world of work, today in the near future, what are some skills that you feel like leaders need to have in order to create an empowered and an engaged workforce? Are there certain tools they need to be successful for retaining a satisfied team?
Yeah. So, yeah, where do I start with that one?
On episode number 2, no,
Right, right. Here we are. Here we are again talking about that. No, I think from my perspective, having been in many different industries and now working with a number of different leaders, I think having leaders who are skilled in communication, skilled in teamwork and collaboration is going to go far.
yeah,
And I say communication because everything nowadays is brief, to the point. It needs to happen immediately. People are used to texting, not having face to face dialogues. I think somebody who can just break down all of that, and have that face to face, that interaction, that open, honest, and transparent talk, I think that's going to be key and pivotal. The other thing, and I believe they're starting to now teach this in schools, right, is that whole teamwork aspect, because you have to figure out how you can interact with people that you might not necessarily get along with outside, but
yeah,
you want to know what? You don't have to go have beers with them or go on family vacations or
right.
play sports, but you got to figure out how to get the work across the finish line. So teamwork and collaboration, I think, are also two very important features. I've often told my kids, I'm like, you don't need to like your teachers, because you want to know what? I don't like all the people that I have an opportunity, or that are on part of my team, or even clients. That's okay. you got to find out a way to work with them and to deliver the results. So I think from my perspective, I think those are three very key and pivotal. The rest of the things I think can be taught or learned, right?
Yeah.
If you've got the right attitude towards those three things, I think you can bring people together. You can bring, resolution to a lot of what you have on your plates.
How does a leader know if they're getting it right with their people, or if they're not frankly nailing it, right? What are the indicators? Where do they need to look to find this kind of valuable information?
So it's probably taken many years of this, but I like to say everyone has a good gut, right? I mean, you know your teams and you know when something's off or when something's not right, or when you try to challenge them to think outside the box or to grow and to learn, and you're met with, just ho hum. Those are some pretty clear signs that what you're doing is not kind of resonating with them. And, sometimes people don't see the signs of, people leaving early or shutting down or, all those sorts of things they don't recognize. So I say, keep your eyes open to some of those things. If people, like you said earlier, if they stop asking questions or are not inquisitive, or those are all additional things where you need to say as a leader, gosh, what am I not doing? And quite frankly, I think asking your employees, hey, what's working? What's not? What could I be better at? And having that growth mindset to know that I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
And unless you tell me that I'm not doing something right, I'm not going to be able to change.
Again, with the willingness to act on the
With the
feedback you've
willingness.
been given.
Right, exactly. I mean, I may say to you, Curtis, I don't like black shirts, so
Yeah.
please don't wear that black shirt again, right? Or whatever the case may be. But if I don't tell you that, you're never going to know. And every time you show up to work with a black shirt on, I'm going to be like, oh God, I got to deal with him again, right?
I would do it for you.
Okay.
Do you feel like there's aspects of people dynamics that might change as the business landscape evolves over time?
Yeah, I mean, I think business is always changing, and I think if you as a leader are not astute enough to realize that there may be things that you're doing that may need to change in order to, I don't know, generate a new level of excitement from a employee group.
Yeah.
I think that's shame on you for not being, open enough to trying something new or doing something different.
I mean, you're so 100% agree that it is always evolving. It is always changing. So how would you see compensation and what we refer to as total rewards evolving alongside the business
Yeah,
world?
yeah. That's a great question. And one of the things that I always say, and again, you kind of read it at the very beginning, right? Compensation is too important to get wrong. And whatever message you send with compensation is a message. Sometimes that's a positive one, sometimes that's a negative one. So you have to tread very lightly on all of those things. But a lot of times clients will come in, they're like, you know what? I know my competitor across the street gives this type of a bonus plan. So they're successful, therefore I need to do the same. And I'm like, that's a copycat, right? Their compensation philosophy may be altogether different.
Mhm.
Their go-to-market strategy may be different, all sorts of things. So be unique, be you, create a compensation package and philosophy that's going to work for you, for your business, for your employees, and going to drive value for you. Because that end of day, that's important. I hesitate when clients come in and they're like, well, I want exactly that. Well,
Yeah.
that's disingenuous because you don't know what they did to get to that point. So
Right.
I think, kind of coming back, sometimes clients say, I want to ask my employees. I had one client who, when I did have those interviews, they wanted me to interview the C-suite all the way down to their entry level employee. And they wanted me, and there was just a handful. I think there was maybe 10 people that I interviewed, but they wanted feedback from each one of the levels. And when I met with the HR leader, he's like, Sheila, I want you to ask my frontline employees, hey, we are challenged with, do I give my employees a base wage increase, or would you rather have a better benefit package? I want you to gather that information for me because I want to use that in my decision making. So again, a very unique approach that may not work for every organization. So you got to understand kind of your employee group as well. But the majority of the employees, all the way down to the bottom, said, I'd rather have more pay because that's going to be able to put gas in my car, food on my table. Our benefit package is good, don't get me wrong, but I'm pretty healthy.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
really use the benefits, right? So everybody's going to have a different play on it. So in that particular case, again, that's an example of one particular client and how transparent they wanted to be in the questions that they wanted to ask.
Also kind of highlights the fact that depending on the organization and the types of frontline workers, there might be, very different life stage choices that can be hard to answer with a one size fits all
Mhm.
package. That might be a conversation for another day on
Yeah.
how to do things like that. But that's a very real thing that we are having to deal with as business leaders in today's workforce, right? Because you have the kid just out of college with very little professional development who's incredibly healthy, and then you have the 40 something who's got two little kids, right? And then you have the maybe the older person who's close to retirement.
Mhm.
So very, very different. You're going to get very different answers from them.
You are. So again, that kind of comes back to my point about every organization is very unique and their circumstances. So there is no one size fits all. But I
Yeah.
think it's important to understand your workforce dynamics and play to those when you can, right? So to your entry level individuals who are could potentially still be on mom and dad's healthcare coverage. Let's be honest,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Insurance isn't important for them, right?
Right.
So maybe you need to talk about career development and highlight career development for them and their 401k contributions that you're going to make regardless of whether or not they contribute, because that's adding to their future wealth. That the middle-aged individual with two children, right? Maybe insurance is important to them, and
Yep.
highlighting that package. And how do you get from that role to middle management, right? That might also be another aspiration.
Right.
And then at the higher end, right, if they're close to retirement, what can you do to help them prepare for retirement? Maybe you talk about succession planning needs, or how can they mentor the younger group so that they feel like they're giving back to their
Yeah.
profession, their organization. So you have the ability to, if you think strategically about all those things, to do different things to highlight your overarching package so that everybody feels like they're connected or have some opportunity in that.
How do you see your own work evolving with all of these changes that will go on over the next, 2, 5, 10
Yeah,
years,
10
et
years.
cetera? 20?
Yeah. I hope to be not working in 20 years. But again, kind of one of the things that I guess fuels me or excites me every day is getting to be a part of organizations and being a part of how do they message it to their employees, and how can I mentor the next level of business leader, whether that be in HR or in operations or an entrepreneur, right? How can I help them kind of navigate through 30 years of what I've been a part of? But I think also I consider myself a lifelong learner, right? I always want to make sure that I'm staying up on the things that I'm doing, the procedures or the things that I'm recommending, and just always being on that edge. So that's tough to do, but that gets me excited and gets me up every morning.
My final question to you, I'm curious if, an entrepreneur, business leader, an owner asked you for your single most important piece of advice about managing people well, taking care of them, or providing compensation packages, right? You're on the elevator up to the top floor and they're about to walk out. What do you tell them before the door opens and you don't see them again?
Hmm,
You can't
that's a
wait
tough.
that long. The door's already open.
I
I'm
know, I
trying.
know,
No, I'm
I know.
kidding.
The door's shut. Be quick, Sheila. I think I would say be transparent with them.
Yeah.
Know that they are more than just a number, their name. They bring a whole host of history with them, and really treat them as such, right? I mean, they're an asset, like we talked at the very beginning, right? They're an asset for your company, so you should know who they are, what they do for you, how they're contributing, and recognize and reward that where you can. And it goes without saying, a quick little email or a pick up the phone to say, hey, thanks for this, thanks for staying till 8 o'clock on a Friday night when I know you wanted to be home to go to your kid's baseball game. Thank you. That means a lot. And I think being able to actually say that and recognize that, is extremely powerful. I will tell you, those leaders that I've worked for that do that, they hold a special place in my heart, because I also have a whole host of individuals, leaders that I've worked for that didn't do that and just expected that that's what I was going to do.
Right.
And that cuts very differently.
Yeah. That's great advice. That's great advice. Thank you, Sheila. Thanks so much for joining me today. I truly appreciate all your insights. So glad to have you here.
Fantastic. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you all for tuning into the Mustard Hub Voices Behind the Build. Please share this episode, and be sure to subscribe while you're at it. Drop by mustardhub.com to learn how we help companies become destinations for workplace happiness and turn culture into a competitive edge. And be sure to sign up to be one of the first to get started with Mustard Hub for free when you visit the site. Until next time.